So we are on to our next in conversation, and we've got Simon Court here, who has been a client of ours for quite some years and has got really interesting stories. So Simon, thanks for taking the time to sit down and talk to us.
No worries. Nice to have a chat with you, Jimmy.
So Simon, how long have you been coached by myself and been coming to VO2?
So I think it's about 2012 we started working together, something like that.
Yeah. And how did you find us?
We were recommended by one of your other lovely clients, Rebecca. And, I think when you embark on something new, especially when you're putting your body on the line and doing things that you don't normally do, because it was a new experience for us at the time, you want to trust that you're putting your your one and only body in the right hands. So it was nice to have a good reference, and I think it was timely as well, because I think I realized that I just wasn't paying enough attention to my that part of my health, my physical health, and I needed to, and kind of lots of false starts, signing up for gym memberships and then not really following through, and I think largely feeling a bit lost in terms of what to do. Lots of equipment, lots of people who appear to know what they're doing, and not feeling very clear, and feeling like also when you're starting from a relatively low base in terms of knowledge and fitness, it's really difficult to know how to take the first steps in a sensible, smart way, and feel like you're starting to make some good progress. So I wanted some guidance, and that's exactly why we came to see you.
Do you mind me asking what age you was when you
Not at all.
took it?
Not at all. So, in 2012, I was 52. So, and my background in terms of things like sport and fitness was, I think when I was a younger man, up until my sort of early 30s, I was a consistent, regular football player. I was quite capable, and I loved team sports. But I presume, like quite a lot of younger men, I'm not sure about women in this case, but certainly younger men, team sports become really hard on the body once you get into your 30s, and your performance sort of drops off, and married life and other priorities like children take over, and suddenly you find yourself not doing any sport at all, apart from my annual skiing holiday. and, and every year I could feel my ability to ski well, because I sort of used to be a ski instructor years ago. My abilities was just dropping off because I just wasn't strong enough. And so, and I spoke between the ages of about 30, 35 and 50, just not doing enough really, and trying to figure out how to stay fit, and kind of a sort of slow creeping decline probably underway, not just the natural aging process, but just not taking enough care of physical fitness and not knowing how to. I think is part of the story, really.
And you and your wife Jane, who I'd like to interview at another point as well.
Yeah.
I remember when you came to us, you were both ready to start, and it's a really interesting point in anybody's journeys when they meet us. You can just sense whether they like the idea of it or whether they are actually ready to go.
Yeah.
And you were definitely at that point, and you weren't quite sure what it looked like, but you knew you were ready to take action with your health and with your fitness. So from that point, how did we get you into something that would work for you with your exercise and with your training?
So I think, particularly at that time in my life, and it hasn't changed that much since, but except more recently, I was very, very busy. I'm traveling a lot, lots of meetings, having to stand up on my feet and perform, doing what I do for a living, lots of financial challenges to kind of manage for the company that I run. So, you know, I just needed to find a way of fitting fitness and health into my life. So I think figuring out what is the right timing to do that and making a regular commitment and treating it, as I tried to do, as non-discretionary. It's going to happen. I need to organize my life around it rather than try to fit it into my life. Was quite an important moment, really, I think. So, and you mentioned Jane, my wife. I mean, she's a kind of morning person, so she's always had a preference for getting up first thing and coming over to the gym and working with you. And I'm the exact opposite of that. So for me, I get better as the day goes on, and coming in to see you at the end of the day was a really nice bookend to my day, and it was a great way of clearing my head of all the kind of complications and challenges and sort of stresses and strains. And I kind of would just remember, especially during that period, leaving feeling, you know, just feeling better and peaceful, a bit decompressed, and actually feeling good about the fact that I'd made a commitment to myself, I'd followed through on it, and I felt a bit stronger as a consequence. I mean, there was one other thing about it as well I distinctly remember, which is I'd up until that point, I thought exercise and fitness was all about just trying to get aerobically fit. I think it was just all about hard work, and sweat and being out of breath. And I think what I learned from you was it's about a lot more than that, and starting to think about flexibility and strength and balance and other forms of conditioning was actually a kind of a wake up call, really. And so I found it really interesting, and never knew quite what to expect. Although after a while you see the patterns in what you're doing and the progressions, and you can also feel your progress, because there are sort of milestones where you realize that you've just done 20 reps of something you could barely do previously. So there are some nice kind of moments of sense of real progress that you pick up along the way, which were good, really encourage you to keep going.
Absolutely, yeah. And you know, you mentioned that you're a very busy guy, you still are. Quite stressful at some points as well. Very time heavy business, and a lot of traveling at one point as well. So we had to figure out a way of, you know, a lot of exercise and a lot of training. When you get a trainer, you know, it is about their perception of they need to be with a trainer to make it happen. And that's not our approach at all. You know, our approach is, yes, we meet regularly and we go through things, we go through our program, but it's how can we set you off to go and be able to have the knowledge to train and exercise and set goals and do that sort of work away from us, with us steering you and guiding you. So we came up with some ideas of how you could be traveling and keep some training going.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, this was this turned into a kind of life-changing thing for me, really. So I think it was 2 years after I started, probably, and I'd made good progress and I felt in a good routine. But I think I realized, and you realized, that this wasn't enough. I needed to do something else, because once a week is, you know, it's nice, but it's kind of, you sort of will plateau if you do nothing else, right? So and I can't remember whether it was your idea or it's probably your idea. And I said, well, you can try running, and it wasn't a hugely appealing idea at the time, I don't think, because I thought every time I tried that previously, I was sort of the first mile is so ugly that I thought, oh, this is a terrible idea, and I need to retreat back to my warm house on a winter's day. So, but for some reason, I think because I was starting in a better place and my commitment was there, and I could also see how, given I was, getting on planes and traveling to different locations, it was a really nice thing about being able to explore a foreign city on a pair of running shoes. I mean, you see it 3 times as fast, roughly. I don't know what it is, but and so in Berlin, running through the Brandenburg Gate, or running around some of the beautiful gardens in some of the parks in Rome is actually a really pleasurable experience. I mean, running around the Colosseum once. I mean, so running was a way of getting myself out of bed and actually going out and seeing the city where I was, and actually enjoying the fact that I came back and I actually felt really good about the rest of the day. And I think I felt mentally more acute. And yeah, so it was a sort of, in the early stages, I concentrated on almost being a running tourist than the running itself. And that sort of helped, actually. And it suddenly started to become a part of my fitness routine. And then, of course, the next step is, again, I can't remember if this is my idea or yours, it's probably yours. You said, why didn't you enter a race? And I remember I entered the Tunbridge Wells half marathon in 2015. It was the first time I did it. And being absolutely terrified of the distance of running 13 miles. And then, I secretly didn't tell you. I decided I wanted to run it in under 2 hours, which nowadays I kind of think is a bit funny. But at the time, I just thought it was an immense thing to do. And, I think I saw you at the end because you ran that race that day, a bit quicker than me. But you're A, a better runner, and B, a lot younger. I remember being so excited at the end because I managed to follow the pacer, the 2 hour pacer. And I kept saying to him, "You are not overtaking me," for the last couple of miles. It wasn't as polite as that as well. And I've got this lovely photograph of me crossing the finishing line with him just behind me, him laughing. He knew how important that was to me. So, and and then I burst into tears, told my wife I'd never do it again. And by the time I'd had dinner that evening, I was signing up for the next race. And that kind of changed the last sort of 6 years of my life, because I've become completely focused on running, and now run at least 3 times a week. I can't remember how many half marathons I've done. I tried to work it out because I knew we were having this conversation. And I've also run 3 marathons, London marathons. And I now sort of feel I can take that in my stride. And it's an extraordinary thing, given I was what the condition I arrived in 2012. I would not have believed you if you told me that this is where I would be in 2021. So.
And just tell us how much money you've raised for charity in that time as well.
Well, that's nice. I mean, I had my dad was a Barnardo's boy, so an orphan. He was fostered as a child, so he had a pretty tough childhood, and so I felt some loyalty to Barnardo's for obvious reasons. And I think in the half marathons and the marathons I've run, we're somewhere between 25 and 30,000 pounds, something like that. So yeah, that's been a nice kind of aspect of it. I think running's given me a lot more than just some fitness. It's actually become something I really love, and it's become a part of my life, and incredibly grateful for that. I think it's also taught, going back to you and VO2, I think it's added a dimension to our conversations because you help me structure my training program, help me, not go too far too fast in terms of training. We focus a lot on injury prevention, which is always a threat. I realized with regular running, I mean, running's, I think, wonderful for your health. Don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise, but it does bring some wear and tear that you have to be careful around. And thanks to you, we've, I think, pretty much kept me largely injury free. And when we have problems, you're the first person I'd reach to help me figure out, is it a small thing, a big thing? Do I need treatment or not? Does it need rest? Or can I carry on running? I mean, all of those questions, which on my own, I wouldn't feel confident about, you've helped me to learn how to deal with. And actually, nowadays, I still ask you, but I pretty much know the answer before I ask you. And, the habits that I've got into in terms of stretching, both before exercise and afterwards, have, I think, served me very well in that sense. And it's a natural extension of the personal training work we do together, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And when we work together and we work on how to, your perception when you very first walked in through the door was, I need to get myself fit. I don't know what it looks like. And for us, it looks like a complete person. We're looking at you physically,
Yeah.
we're looking at you mentally, we're talking about nutrition, we're trying to cover everything. We've even had conversations about business, about finances, everything. It's all about financial health as well. All these sort of conversations have come up through our journey together, and we're constantly planning, we're constantly reviewing.
Yeah.
And I remember when you first started running, you said to me, this is great, Jimmy, I've really discovered something here, but where does it go from here? Should I do an event? And just that intrigue has never really stopped. You're still asking questions about it and still seeing where this journey can go for you. And I think the list of benefits that I see for yourself have been endless, and it's a really exciting thing to see.
It's been amazing, and I'm still thinking about pushing myself a bit further, not for a kind of macho thing. It always has to be further. I'm not sort of thinking about things like ultra running and things like that. I think a marathon is far far enough, and even though lots of people have done them now, I still feel it's a very significant thing to do, especially when you're not as young as you once were. I mean, it makes me wish sometimes, regrets are a terrible thing, but sometimes I wish I'd started this when I was a bit younger and I could have explored my potential a bit more. But it's nice when you finish your race and you know that you're at least good for age, and and there's a certain amount of self-esteem and pride that comes out of finishing one of these things and improving your time and I think I remember talking to you about this the first time I ran the London Marathon. I didn't finish in great condition, and I had a long conversation with my wife about am I not looking after myself actually. And what I actually decided is that I just hadn't done enough training. I hadn't prepared well enough. I hadn't thought enough about nutrition and hydration, all sorts of things that I could improve. And for me, it was an opportunity to get stronger and better, not a chance to give up or to just call it quits. And I'm so glad I did, because every time I've ever done that in my life, never mind just running, I've learned something new and I feel I've got stronger. And I think that's what running has given me, is capacity to learn, adapt. And, actually the whole idea of running for 3 hours or something makes you feel, gives you time to think. It's almost a meditative thing. I, in a way, like, I lost my mum and my dad during that whole period, and actually it helped me to cope with that. So it has benefits that go far beyond physical fitness. So I completely agree with you. This is a holistic thing. And even though I'm not running with you, I'm running on my own or with a friend or with 40,000 friends. I always know that before and afterwards, you're probably the first person I want to tell you about how it's gone and, you know, what I've learned from it and how that sort of guides us as to what we need to do next. And it's quite interesting because in the last months, of course, having to work virtually, wife Jane and I have been training with you virtually, and we're sort of training together in our online sessions. And it's really interesting actually because Jane has got different strengths and weaknesses from me from a fitness, flexibility, and sort of body point of view. So you know, I see her doing things and I think I wish I could do that, and vice versa probably. So it's interesting how personal training is and how much care you put into making sure that you protect Jane's back or you help me to avoid, you know, hamstring and sort of tendon problems, which is one of the things I've suffered with a bit with running. So yeah, so I quite like that. And you know, here's us training together, but doing different things at the same time in order to make sure that we're both getting what we need out of training.
Yeah, absolutely. The process gets individualized. Absolutely, you know, because no two bodies are the same, and I think that's a very important part of being coached and knowing people for a long period of time. You know, I think the longer that I know you, there's still so much more to discover as well, and that's all part of the process. To do it over a short period of time, you know, you've gone from taking up exercise to running a marathon very quickly, and I think I could tell you a lot of the stuff to do, but you needed to experience what it felt like to actually go, oh, now I know what he was trying to explain to me. But you've got to experience it to be able to learn the lessons. And I think that's a really good example and something that you would have not just in a marathon is a very extreme case, but across a long period of time of trying to lead a healthy life.
Yeah, I think that's 100% right. You can't pre-learn everything you need to learn. You have to learn it through experience. I think I know through my own work that something like 70% of how we learn is just doing things and succeeding or failing, and it's sort of what we do with the failures really that defines us, I think, and we turn them into a learning opportunity or turn it into a moment where our confidence is damaged and we withdraw somehow. And it's never been my bag really doing that. So this has felt very natural, and I've enjoyed that. I love being coached, and I love coaching other people. It feels a very natural thing, and the chemistry between us, you and I, and also you and Jane, is so good that I don't know how to describe it really, because you're you're kind of a gentle soul, very kind, very thoughtful about what you do, very patient, but there's also a bit of, I don't know, a bit of grit and discipline that comes with you in a very authentic way. I always feel that you will gently nudge me in the right direction without being a tyrant at all. And we also laugh a lot along the way. So it's a very good, it feels like a very good combination, just gently moving in the right direction, course correcting when we need to. And, you know, I feel like we'll talk a lot, we'll listen to each other, we'll figure out what's the right thing to do for me. And I have a lot of trust and faith in that, which is worth its weight in gold, really, given what we're doing. I also know how much effort you put into your own personal development and constantly improving your art, and I sort of feel that impacting on the work that we do together, which I also value a lot.
Well, I appreciate them words, and yeah, I very much believe you treat people how you'd like to be treated, and I think that's a lot of come from a lot of my experiences as well. And you know, a lot of my experiences have been You know, I've learned a lot from failure, and you see it all the time. And I think it's really important to understand that that is where you get some great lessons from. So moving forward, where would you, what goals have you got in the back of your mind going forward? Where would you like to go?
Well, you know, I guess there's the, you won't be surprised to hear me say this, but the, I think the underlying goal about just maintaining a healthy body, mind, spirit, that is the kind of platform for everything else. So whatever happens, if I injure myself and I couldn't run anymore or something like that, I would find a substitute for that, an alternative to that. But the personal training thing is the sort of foundation stone for everything else, I think. And but I'm definitely not not done with running. My kind of aim really is to keep myself fit and strong and as injury free as possible, and take on some new challenges. And this year's no different. So short term, there's no Tunbridge Wells half marathon, unfortunately, because of COVID. But obviously, there's nothing to stop me running it. So I'm going to run my own race that day. And it is, as you know, the World Championships for half marathon. So it's got the worst hill in the world halfway around. So I'm quite looking forward to that, which seems a mad thing to say, but only runners understand that. And then, of course, later this year, we've got hopes that some kind of normality can return, and London are hoping to run the London Marathon. So I'm hoping to do that again this year. And we're talking about, you know, goodness knows, COVID willing, whether we can do it, but going to New York, and I'd love to run the New York Marathon as well. They're only a month apart, so that would be quite a big challenge for me to manage that. I mean, the good news is the training you only do once. So, but the interesting thing would be about recovery for the couple of weeks after that, and then building up to be ready to run another marathon. And I need to think about that and talk to you about that. So that would be a good challenge for this year. Beyond that, who knows? I think we'll reset again and look ahead again.
Well, there's some great goals, yeah, and you know, we'll be rehearsing our strategies for that, definitely, and looking at anything else we can do differently, or things we can just tweak and improve marginally. So yeah, it's great. Well, thank you for telling us your story. I think it's a really inspiring story and really motivating to hear it again as well. And hope somebody has listened to this and feels motivated to take action themselves.
I really hope so, because it's you know, that's the best reason for doing this. I mean, got a lot of time for you guys. I know how hard you work at what you do, how committed you are to doing it well, and you deserve to be successful. And the most important thing is that you really affect people's lives in a big way. And I'm incredibly grateful for the way you helped me improve my life and cope with the last 10 years of my life. I don't think I'd be the same person, in fact, if I hadn't gone through this journey with you.
Well, I really appreciate that. Thanks very much for taking the time to share your story, Simon. And yeah,
Pleasure,
thank you very much.
All right, take care.
Take care.